You're tuned into the Entrepreneur Sessions, the ultimate podcast for startup entrepreneurs.
I want to welcome everyone to today's podcast. Volta is a self-proclaimed art and donut evangelist, and she wants to spread the magic of watercolors to everyone who will listen. While born in the distant country of Moldova, Volta has found a home in Dallas, Texas. Her passion is so vibrant, cultural, cuisine, and character comes alive in her distinctive, colorful art. To share her joy of art, Volta started Color Snack Creative Studio as a way to share tips, encourage others to live a creative life, and help build the next generation of artists by donating a portion of proceeds to local art education. Volta's mission to watercolor the world can be seen in the various projects such as brand activations, custom illustrations, and animations that she creates for the national and international brands. She also hosts local watercolor workshops where she encourages everyone to rediscover their inner artists. She calls Cedars, Dallas home, where she lives with her husband and a cat. So I want to welcome today Volta live broadcast today with Entrepreneur. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mario. Thank you so much for having me.
So Mario, I'll let you go ahead and kick off the first question.
Cool. So today's, to remind everyone what the theme is for July, the theme is Creative Series, thinking outside of the box. So this month we're focusing on creativity and strategy as it relates to business. Now, first question, Volta, how did your journey as an illustrator and a content creator begin?
Yeah, so I was always an artist at heart, but I didn't always pursue art. In fact, in college, I went to study business and marketing. And then for about a decade, I spent my time working in digital marketing. So, but throughout this whole time, I always wanted to return to art because in my heart, that's what spoke to me the most. And so I think like the moment that I distinctly remember where I decided I have to give this a try was I was flying back from California to Dallas, and there was a lot of turbulence on the flight, and it was just so scary. Like I know turbulence is very typical, but that one particularly just really shook me. and so I just remember in that moment I was thinking, you know, if I were to die right now, I didn't even spend any time at all giving it a shot, pursuing something that is all of my heart, you know. So I think after that experience, I was just like, I don't know how long I have on this planet. I just want to give it a shot because this is really what speaks to my heart, what sets my soul on fire, so to speak. Like I have to do art.
I love it. So how do you typically, as an illustrator, you focus on creating amazing food illustrations? That's actually the niche that you work in. And I love that because I love the coin phrase, like the riches are in the niches. So why did you choose the niche of like food illustration? Like what was your inspiration for that?
Yeah, I always was just kind of drawn to vibrant foods. And for a while, I didn't really, you know, spend any time kind of delving into the matter as to why, but I always just was drawn to foods. And then whenever I started, you know, my career as an illustrator, I saw other artists making it with food illustration and food art. And so I thought, well, if they can do it, this is definitely a thing. And I love to paint food. I love to eat it. And so like throughout my experience of kind of like starting my my journey as an artist and as an illustrator, I also kind of started visiting a lot of local restaurants that kind of introduced me to a lot of new foods and all that. And I also got to know the people that ran those restaurants. And so I think it was kind of like a mixture of a different influences that eventually I was just like, you know, I really love food and this is it. Like this is the thing. So I definitely want to pursue it.
I love it. I can totally relate because I love food too. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Foodies right here. Maybe that'll be our next blog. You know, we'll just have to hit up a couple of restaurants when they open up again. So, so you know, a lot of times we you know, as creatives, we like to think outside of the box. You know, we hate I wouldn't say hate structure, but we hate being confined because it, kind of limits our creativity. And so typically, with working with different companies, working with different brands, sometimes they have the way of doing things. But how do you typically work with brands? What's some of the processes, from point A to point, Z, when you first meet a potential client or a brand?
Yeah, I would say, so a lot of my kind of services that I offer for major brands, it would be like doing brand activations. So those used to happen in person at in-person events. Now they're online. But the process was kind of like they were looking to add an element of maybe something memorable for their attendees. And so I would come in with my live painting services, and depending on whatever brand it could be, I would paint something on the spot, and then the person would receive like an original watercolor illustration. So it would be kind of like adding that special element that typically like a brand activation maybe doesn't have, well, aside from them like introducing their whatever it is that they're promoting.
Yeah. So that's cool. So your strategy was really like creating like unique experiences, basically bringing in this unique, memorable element to bring the event up. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. So I kind of stumbled onto that because I didn't know that was a thing before I started my journey. And it just happened that some brands started reaching out to me, and they were like, hey, do you do live painting? And I had to look up really quickly. It's like, what is like live painting? Like, I paint while I'm there with you. How does this work? And after my first event, it just felt so natural. And I've kind of trained my hand to like sketch things really quickly, so I can knock out a lot like during an hour. And so it just kind of worked out in terms of like, offering that special, unique little watercolor that people could take along with, whatever the brand is promoting, like a cocktail or something like that.
That's awesome. I think what I really love about your brand and what really excited me about this interview today is just the fact that you've built a successful brand in the creative space. Because I know that a lot of people that work in various forms of creative, whether it's dance or graphic design, sometimes you have to fight to show the value that you bring to a company as far as like creating visibility and really telling the brand story. So what was your motivation? Like, how did you keep yourself inspired as you were growing the business? Because I know now that you've established a name for yourself and you've kind of built some notoriety because of the niche that you serve. But in those early days when you were trying to tell your brand story and when you were trying to really develop your brand, what were some things that you did to keep yourself motivated so that you wouldn't just say, hey, let me go get a job at an agency, or let me just go do something that I know is guaranteed?
I would say a lot of self-work went into that, because I just had to like work on my mindset is what I'm trying to say. That has been the key in me just continuing on and not giving up, because in the first year it was very difficult. Like, there are a lot of challenges and failures, like things that didn't work out, but then eventually those failures just became lessons that I learned, and now I see that as an opportunity to just grow. So anything that isn't working the way I want it to work, I'm just like thinking, okay, so how can I take it apart? So, and that mindset, I didn't grow up with that. I wasn't born with it. I just had to kind of work on having it, like work on believing in myself, because otherwise my dream just didn't stand a chance. I really think no matter what we're after, whatever we're pursuing, it's so important to have that belief in yourself. And the way you do that is, I think, by just having that faith in your capabilities, so believing in yourself and just, I guess, being your biggest like hype person.
I love it. So for you, I mean, what was the light at the end of the tunnel? Because when you're first building up that brand and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, what was the, I guess, pivotal moment where things shift, or what was that big project that you got that let you know, like, this is something that's sustainable. I could actually do this. I could make this
Yeah, yeah. I would say definitely getting the evidence that my work is recognized and sought by brands like the Dallas Mavericks. That was such a highlight in my journey because they're huge, and
wow.
I'm an artist who yeah, like it was just such a cool experience, and to know that they believed in my talent to hire me kind of helped me get continue to grow my confidence in knowing that, well, they believe in me, I got to keep believing in myself. So it was just it was really neat to be able to see that kind of, yeah, just the evidence that it is working, that people are reaching out and my art is resonating with them and with brands and just with people on an individual level.
I love it. So can you tell us more about the Dallas Mavericks project, like what you did and some of the projects you worked on?
Yeah, so it was they called it Art and Basketball Night, and it happened last November. And they invited about 10 or so local artists, and we all did a bunch of, we offered different things. So my part was I did an in-person workshop. So as people were kind of mingling, and right before the game started, it was about 2 hours before a game started, people could come by, sit down at a table, and I'd walk them through how to paint something with watercolors. It was super beginner friendly. So even if someone, had no prior experience to making any art, they would still have a little bit of fun, kind of creative, unexpected type of thing that you'd typically not encounter at a basketball game. So it was a very fun experience.
I love that. I think this is a great example too of how you can have one talent where it may seem like there's no correlation, but you used your talent as a brand activator, as an artist, and was able to do a collaboration with a major national sports team. So I think that says a lot to your tenacity, and it also says a lot about where you can go if you don't put limitations on yourself. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Mario?
Well, different processes, we go through different avenues as far as trying to get exposure. Some people swear that, hey, we need to put money behind Facebook ads. Some people say, hey, we need to advertise in magazines. And some other people say, hey, you need to go to a lot of expos. So how did people hear about you? Did anyone say, we heard about you through a magazine? Or how do you get a majority of your clientele?
Yeah, great question. I would say about 90% of my clients come from Instagram.
Oh,
and
okay.
I know that's not a good, you want to diversify, right? So I also try to grow other platforms slowly. It's not as fast. I guess I hang out mostly on Instagram, so that's where people come from.
Right.
But I would say a lot of the bigger opportunities came to me from networking, going to different events and just speaking to people, meeting them, introducing myself, which was really hard at first. Honestly, guys, I'm an introvert, big time. Was super shy prior to starting my own business. I would not speak to anyone at all. And so, but I just had to grow into it. I had to do it for my dream, for my passion. I had to do it.
Because a lot of people who are going to be watching this video, they have different areas of business that they run. And so, I'm always curious as far as how different entrepreneurs have kind of got their exposure out there. And then even as an introvert, there's probably different techniques, different things that you did to try to get out of your shell. Is there anything that kind of okay, now I just got to take a leap of faith and just throw myself out there type of, scenario?
Yeah, I think what worked for me was really just kind of being really real with myself and saying Volta, you have to do this. This is the tax you have to pay in order so your business can grow. Right. And the way I kind of forced myself, I just started signing up for different art fairs where I literally had no choice but to, practice how to speak to people about and introduce them to my art, not necessarily I always I didn't like the idea of being salesy, or because that doesn't, it's not in my character to be that way. but I'm so glad that I learned that there's really a way that you could share your story and what you do with people without, sounding like a sleazy salesman. And
Right.
so like through these art fairs, I just kind of, got used to just getting to know people, seeing what kind of art piece resonated with them. And then that kind of just helped me get better with time.
Cool. Cool. And I was Googling you before this interview, and you came up on D Magazine, several different articles as the most gift-able artist because of unique designs and the kind of like the style. So what inspired you to focus on the creation of gifts? Because I was looking at some of the animation you've been creating, and it was very unique. What's kind of your inspiration behind it?
Thank you. And I do want to say, I'm glad that you say GIF and not GIF. I'm definitely team GIF.
You're coming from another graphical designer right here, so yeah.
Yeah. So I started as a watercolor artist because watercolor is my passion. But then as soon as kind of like I started, posting my art online, I noticed there were a lot of other watercolor artists. And so my first thought was, well, I need to stand out in a way. And so I kind of got my, got my hands on After Effects, Adobe After Effects, and started editing my videos that way. And then I realized that I could just, create really short videos and then turn them into GIFs. And also the fact that Instagram favors video content over static definitely was a huge factor in me kind of pursuing that more. So it just kind of made me challenge myself to see how can I made a piece of art. Well, how can I make it move? Because it has to be a video for Instagram.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, your feed is always so creative. I love like all of your posts. It makes me hungry like every time I look at it. So jumping into the next question, like, can you like walk us through a day in the life of Volta? Like, what does your average day look like? What do you do? Like, how does your morning start to the end of your day?
Yeah, absolutely. I start, I wake up around 6 o'clock. I usually meditate for 10 minutes, and then I journal for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I work out for about 15 minutes. So those three are really important to me because it's just kind of like the three habits that I have to do to feel good about myself. So that's how I start my day. And then lately I've been trying to incorporate with that a kind of an art practice just for myself, because I've found myself that, I do a lot of art, which is great. I love to do it, but a lot of it is for other people. And so I kind of was craving that art time just for myself, where it wasn't for Instagram or clients or anything like that. And so I kind of, after those three habits, I usually do some art. And then by that time, my husband wakes up and we have breakfast together. And then a shower and all that, and then my day starts. And I typically work on different client projects throughout the day. Sometimes I will hop on I'm part of a couple of like art groups where they have Zoom calls, and it's just a nice way, especially right now, to kind of keep the community going, talking to different people. And, so yeah, it's kind of like work. And then in the evenings, I usually just relax, play with my cat, watch a show to unwind, decompress, and then go to sleep.
That's good. It sounds like you have like a really good work-life balance strategy. And also, one thing that I really liked is that you're an early riser. And when you read all these different articles about millionaires and the wealthy people, that everything always points to them starting their day early. So I think that's really cool. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
And you mentioned like time, because that's one thing that I'm always working on, when I deal with different clients, is how to prioritize my time. So are there some tools that you use whenever you're trying to, like, you got one project and you jump to another project?
I use this project management or like task management tool called Notion. Have you guys heard of it?
No, I want to look into it.
It's really awesome. It's like Trello, if you're familiar with that, but better
Yeah,
in my
me too.
opinion.
Mhm.
I just like it a lot better. And so there's a way to like add different tags on your tasks and prioritize. And I prioritize based on you know, how big the project is, how long it takes me, and like if there's like a hot deadline for a client that's needing it by the end of the week, then usually I will work on that first. So that's kind of like, yeah, that tool is definitely helping me staying organized and tracking my tasks.
And do they have is it a mobile app that comes along with it, or is it all pretty much a desktop that
I
you?
want to say, so there is a mobile app, but I think it just like opens up you.
What kind of tools do you use to prioritize your projects? And then when you prioritize it, do you base it on how much money you're getting from the project or the time?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's kind of hard to answer that, you know, because I get some projects where it's more long term, and I get some where it's like it needs to be done like, you know, tomorrow.
Yes.
It's like, okay, how do you prioritize it? So I'm gonna definitely look into Notion. So
Yeah. That's a great question for Volta, though. Like, how do you prioritize your projects?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what Mario said. It's if there is a hot deadline for a client, then I'll try to jump and accommodate that. You know, I don't like to advertise that I'll do a rush order anytime, but I try to do my best and kind of like to surprise the client, like, hey, I got it done sooner, kind of thing. But then, you know, if there's a project maybe that requires a lot more time commitment and is not as like the deadline is in a couple of weeks, then I'll probably get to that after like some of the hotter tasks.
I love that.
And
All
then
right, Mark.
different entrepreneurs, you know, and business owners who come across, you know, entrepreneur. What's some of the aspiring, you know, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? It just kind of left me. What's some of the inspirational quotes that you kind of live by that you share with other, you know, people who come to you as a mentor, mentee, more or less?
Yeah, I would say the quote that stands out the most lately for me has been learning not to quit, but to rest. So I used to suffer from burnout a lot in the first 2 years. I'm getting a little better because I'm like very intentional. For example, on Sundays, I try to just take time and not work at all, which used to be unheard of. I used to just work, you know, all through the weekend because why not? I mean, I have to get things done and I could get ahead and I could get more things done. But eventually it just became such a like a vicious cycle of me feeling really tired all the time. And I've noticed that even taking like a day off in the week, I feel a lot more refreshed and I can work better. I can, you know, be more creative. And so I think that's what I would share is like, and I had to learn this the hard way because when I would feel burnt out, my initial thought was to quit because I was just so exhausted, you know, but after I would rest for a couple of days, I'd be like, okay, well, it's not so bad. I feel better now. So I think it's like, oh, if I just rested and like scheduled that time in, then I wouldn't have to go through this.
I love that.
So yeah,
Work-life
a
balance.
work in progress.
It's necessary. Work-life balance for real. I'm 100% a proponent. I think if you work, even if you're successful, if you don't have time and you don't take time for yourself, I don't think you can be the best that you can be. So I think that's awesome, and I'm totally for taking off a day that's just a self-care day.
Yes.
To just eat or do your nails or whatever you want to do. So
Yes,
nice.
exactly. And I mean like unplug from like social media too, because that used to be really hard because I live on Instagram basically, and really like taking a day off of that was just so good for my mental health.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then also trying to separate your business from your personal life too. You know, that's always difficult. And so like what I try to do, I try to create a certain section in my house, you know, that's okay, this is business. Once I walk out of that room, it's all, you know, personal life. So are there different strategies that you pick to kind of separate your business and your personal, or is it still kind of co-mingle?
Yeah, it used to be really hard because my husband and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, so it's really difficult to like have a space. But this year I invested in like an actual office space. So my husband and I share that, but it's still nice because we get to leave our house, we get to go there, and it's still one room that we share, but it's just work, you know. It's like strictly like we can focus there, and then it has gotten better as far as like when I come home, I can actually feel like I'm relaxing, as opposed to before, like I would come home from a workshop or an event and I'd be like, oh, there's more work. Look at all this work I need to do.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important. Especially, I was talking to somebody recently and they were saying how they work from, especially right now during the pandemic, they've been working from their bed, and it was hard to find a stopping point. And I was like, sometimes even if you're in a small space, it's good just to find a designated space that you're like, when I'm in this space, I work, and when I get out of that space. But sometimes, like you said, you just got to get completely out the building and just get some get some fresh air, just get a different perspective. So
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Mario, did you have?
Oh, no, up to you, Jennifer.
Okay. So to piggyback off of Mario asked like about some inspirational quotes. What advice can you offer to aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners, specifically people who are in the creative space that don't have a tangible product but have something that they can sell? It's not something that you can hold, but it's something that holds value.
Yeah, let's see. I honestly, like, I would just go back to the advice of believing in yourself and what you have to offer, and also finding a way that you know, creation resonates with another person. So kind of finding a way that it fits, because when I first started, I used to think, well, so I spent like 7 years in digital marketing. So I had my business brain, but then I was also an artist. So I had my artist brain. And at first it was so hard to marry the two, because I was either, when I first started Color Snack, I also was still doing freelancing with marketing. So I kind of was still, you know, in the business mode, but then had a really hard time like applying that to my art. And I think it just took some time for me to kind of get it where I could finally see, okay, I have art. What is a way that I can potentially help another brand or another person with it? Like, how can I serve them in a way that makes them look better? And so I think it's just a matter of kind of trying to find, yes, you made that awesome thing, but how can it be useful to another person? And then just being genuine about it, you know, kind of coming from a place of like, this is how I would like to serve you. So for me, it was, you know, doing those either like brand activations where I taught workshops, or doing live painting events where it just made their experience that much more special for their customers. So kind of like trying to think of different creative ways of how you can insert yourself and provide that need for another brand.
That's nice.
Man, that sounds awesome. That sounds like, you know, what every business owner needs to apply. You know, it's not so much about yourself. It's about how can you help that other business or client, you know, look better. Because I have gone with this motto: you're only as good as your last client, type of thing, or even like the suit guy way back when we said, if you don't look good, we don't look good, type of thing. But I definitely like that motto. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you have any mentors, anyone that, you know, you kind of look up to that helps kind of inspire you?
Yeah, I have several. A lot of them are in the art world. I also have, so let's see, Katerina Popova. She's an artist that has just seen a lot of great success in her career, and she's been doing it for about a decade. And I've just always inspired by her. And I think what initially like drew me to her was the fact that she's also from Eastern Europe. So we kind of had that initial connection, and then seeing that, oh, like another immigrant girl can make it, like, so can I, kind of thing. So that definitely was inspiring. And then Another person that I look up to is Lila Smith. She has this program where she teaches people how to say things better. It's literally called Say Things Better. And I did some mentorship with her, and it really helped me kind of focus in on what I want to, like the values that I value or I want to show with my work, and how to communicate that better. And I really think that's really important for any entrepreneur, is just finding a way how to communicate in a way that isn't just, hey, I'm telling you about my business, but like in a way that connects with another person. And like you said, serving them too, because like how can you serve and make someone else's life better with whatever you have to offer. So those are just a few of the mentors that I look up to.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So what's a risk that you've taken in your career that initially, when you took the risk, it scared you, but it's paid off tremendously now?
Yeah, I mentioned that briefly at the beginning, but I would say one of the biggest risks, it was like a huge monetary investment on my part to attend this conference. This is like a huge conference, and I had a booth there, and it was like my very first kind of event where I had to, present myself and show my art. And it was so scary. And I don't know, in my head, I thought, well, if I'm going to start doing this, I have to, do something big, like something that's absolutely terrifying. And at the time, it was very challenging. My booth almost fell apart the second. It was like a 2-day event, and I came in the morning, the second day, my booth was falling over. I had to
Indoor or outdoor?
I had to improvise and redo a lot of things on the spot right before it started again. And then also, in my head, I thought, oh, there's going to be so many people. I'm going to make so many sales. And I did not. But what that taught me, that, I'm still so grateful, because First, I got to meet a lot of other local artists and entrepreneurs, but also just like I mentioned, the idea of it taught me how to learn how to talk to people and get out of my shell and kind of just step into who I wanted to be, even though that was so uncomfortable, and I would have rather much stayed at home, not done it.
I love it. Gotta do it scared.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that indoor or outdoor event?
It was luckily indoor.
Uh-huh.
I did have an outdoor workshop experience when, of course, it started to rain. And that was when I learned that I will never do workshops outside.
You can never control that weather. So, so can you, a crucial, based on all the experience that you have in as a business owner, what crucial piece of advice would you share with other aspiring business owners? 60-second elevator pitch. What would you, that advice?
Let's see. Mindset. I would just say that I think it's the number one thing that can make or break a business or, whatever venture that you start. It's all about having the mindset to believe in it, or believe in yourself and your ability to continue to keep going, no matter what challenges come ahead. Because I'm constantly reading all these success stories of millionaires and big time entrepreneurs, and I'm just what I'm seeing is that the people that make it are the ones that don't give up. So I really think having the mindset to not give up is what can create success.
Man,
that's true. I love that, because I was reading something the other day, and it basically said it takes 10 years to become an overnight celebrity.
Yep.
And the overall message is success doesn't happen overnight. There's obstacles. Full transparency, I had technical issues today for the first time logging in, but the show must go on. So I think that is an awesome piece of advice that if people really apply it, they will see success. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's kind of that picture of an iceberg and people see just the top. It's this is the success, but then underneath it is all the learnings that we've done and all the things that didn't work.
Exactly. I love it. Awesome. So basically, how can our listeners of the podcast connect with you? What are your social handles? All of those great details.
Yeah, I'm at Color Snack on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and then my website is colorsnack.com. And yeah, I mostly hang out on Instagram. It's true, I love it. I'm addicted.
Awesome.
Stella, did we have a question from you real quick that you wanted to ask Volta before we end the podcast?
No.
All right.
No.
Awesome. Well, Volta, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to continue to follow everything that you're doing. Again, it's instagram.com/colorsnack.
Yes.
And please, if you have any graphic needs, this is the person you need to reach out to. The magazine said so too. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining. And we will see everybody on the next episode of Entrepreneur Sessions.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, Jennifer and Mario. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.